Welcome to Clean Air Action's award-winning podcast, Cleaning Up Dirty. We talk politics with non-toxic people. I'm Liz Green-Schultz. I'm the political director of a nonprofit called Clean Air Action.
And I'm Sean Hoffman, legislative director of Clean Air Action. Liz and I run Clean Air Action, which is the proud sister organization of the Clean Air Council, the oldest environmental and public health organization in Pennsylvania.
Together, we fight for your constitutional right to breathe healthy air. Over here at Clean Air Action, we fight dirty with clean. That applies to anyone who messes with our political and civil rights, including corporations and politicians.
That's right. Today, it was a little hard for me to make it through the introduction. I'm so excited to announce our guest. We're deeply honored to have Pennsylvania Speaker of the House, Joanna McClinton, join us. Welcome.
I'm fangirling very hard to have you here.
Cleaning up with dirty.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, that's awesome.
Yes, thank you. And you are just the perfect embodiment of cleaning up dirty. For folks who might not be familiar with her background, Speaker McClinton is the first woman elected Speaker of the House in Pennsylvania in 2023. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. So good to be here.
I'm fangirling extremely hard, and we'll get into why shortly and get the listeners up to speed for those who are not aware.
Yes.
But clearly I have no chill today in particular. So since this is a political podcast, we like to talk about some spicy stuff. So in case we need to eat our feelings, we have our snacks. Now, today
It's a weird mix, guys. I don't even know what none of these match. Not one matches.
Thank you. That is my exact vibe. That is usually what happens. So we have the Oreo Sour Patch Kids. Have you had these before, Speaker McClinton?
Not once in my life.
This is one of those ones like, why?
I haven't even seen it in the store.
Why would they make it? Why? Who's like, you know what I could use in my Oreo? A little Sour Patch Kid.
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah. Frequently, everybody's like, where do you even get these? And it's a vibe for me to consistently have snacks that do not go together. This, of course, is professional and personal. I also do this in my personal life. Now, we also have the Cheetos Flamin' Hot Dill Pickle.
All right.
And the Haribo Unicorn Alicious. And then
that one might be edible. The pickle. You're always doing the pickles because I'm not a pickle guy, Madam Speaker. It's
Love
just I keep trying to like them. And
It's okay.
Thank you. But there's an amazing number of pickle flavored novelty snacks that somehow end up on this table.
I love the pickle flavor
all the time.
Yeah. Now, a little birdie told me you are not a snacker. So it may have been a mistake to ask you on the podcast because it is our thing on the podcast. However,
no way.
I did bring
clementines
because
something
I have
that will support my middle age.
I have seen you
and my
snack.
dentist will love it.
No, this is way more my speed too. I'm not opposed to snacks, but
We're diving
these
right in.
clementines are
Tangerines for the listeners, for the viewers. It smells great.
We're diving right into peeling the clementines. I love this.
Do it.
Well, Sean, you want to jump into the questions while we're clementine peeling?
Absolutely. So, Madam Speaker, you and I both went to Villanova Law.
Yes.
And I'm a proud Villanovan. Anybody thinking about going there, you should go there. But I will say, when I first got to Villanova, I felt a little bit like a fish out of water. I'm not someone who comes from an affluent background. I was looking to do public interest environmental law. Villanova is primarily a business law school. Everybody's rolling up in their fancy cars and talking about where are you going on vacation, spring break? Like the family lake house, maybe? I was like, I'm going to be in Bucks County at the family house where I live with my parents. So I felt like a little bit out of place there. Eventually, again, they were very welcoming and I came full circle. But just curious, what your experience there was like if you, kind of felt similarly at any point.
Sure. So I went to law school right after college. Many people take breaks if you can afford that.
Yep.
I could not. I needed to get into the real world as soon as possible. So I came out of LaSalle in 2003 and I started the law school on my 21st birthday.
Wow.
It was a complete culture shock because it was just such a different student body than we had in my undergrad. So for me, growing up in Southwest Philly, I didn't know anyone that went to Villanova undergrad or law school or business school or any entity. I didn't know any Villanova alums, but I found myself in a culture shock. And many people would joke and say, oh, is it because it's Vanilla Nova? And I said, no, because it's wealthy Nova. No color, no shade, no race, no ethnicity, no heritage. All my classmates, for the most part, of course, not everyone, but for the most part, we were raised just so differently. I was not raised in a, big, fancy, huge mansion on the main line.
Oh, yeah.
I was raised in a beautiful, huge in heart row home in Southwest Philly where it was parking on only one side of the street. And I always thought one day I'll be tall enough to reach one curb to the next because that's how small our street was. And so it was challenging. It was definitely challenging to go from a school in the middle of parts of Northwest Philly to a school in the middle of like the wealthiest part of the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania.
Oh, yeah. For those not familiar, Villanova's out on the main line just outside of Philly. Stunning, beautiful, big old stone homes. And I I was, rolling up to Villanova in my '08 Honda Civic with millions of miles on it, And it was just, I could totally relate. I went to Temple undergrad, and it was a different vibe, but I'm curious. I myself felt like that challenge almost forged me a little bit to sort of find your way through that situation where you can't really relate to too many folks. And I feel like you and I both, we're proud alums now. We made it through. I'm just curious if you kind of had that too, felt like that was like you had to fighting your way through that, finding your path. Did that help you figure out where you wanted to go from there?
So I can't say how much, looking back, especially 22 years later, it's hard to really put your finger on what motivated you to do what. Right. I don't recall at 21 saying, oh, I'm never going to acquire wealth. No, I didn't say that. I'm never going to be able to take my family to a fancy spring break trip. No, I didn't say that either. But certainly I was able to make real connections and friendships that I cherish till this day, 22 years later. I went on campus fall of '03, and I still have folks from my 1L year that we're still tight. We don't get to see each other much because of life and work and obligations, but I've forged great relationships there. And it was truly a blessing for me to learn how other people live and to learn how other people function and how other young adults dress and how you can wear pearls with a sweatshirt. I never knew that. Like, I never knew you could wear pearls with a sweater. These are things I didn't know growing up at LaSalle. But as I grew up at Villanova Law, I started to learn a lot of things. And, I've got on pearl bracelet and necklaces. I wear them all the time. People think it's a sorority. I'm like, oh, it's Villanova. I had to go home and find some to wear on my interviews.
I get that.
I went to Temple Law, and it was a different vibe. To me,
real sweatshirts, no pearls.
Right.
Yes,
maybe earrings, but not necklace.
Yeah, I don't think I ever saw anyone wearing pearls in the law school, and you both have Temple Law vibes to me. I mean that as a compliment because
I've taught there.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't even realize
Cherry
that.
and white.
Wow. What did you teach there?
I taught trial advocacy for 5 years.
Oh, what a dream to have had you as a trial law professor. That would have been amazing.
If you think so, but I enjoyed it. I don't know if any other students said that, but it was a good time.
I would think you would be a trial legend at Temple Law. We were both Philly defenders. So I was a trial lawyer. I talk about it on the podcast all the time. That makes us part of the Philly Defender family. Right. This is part of why I'm such a fangirl. You spoke on a panel when I was a first year.
Oh, wow.
Philly Defender.
You're taking it back. What year did you start?
2018.
My goodness. That's awesome.
Yeah. So I talk on the podcast all the time about how Philly Defender has shaped my career. Sean hears my war stories all the time.
I always say it. I need to be represented in court by anybody. It's going to be Liz. She tore it up. I mean, it was really, and a lot of that is because she went to Temple.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Without a doubt. Bastion. It's in the culture. The way pearls and ritzy vacations are in the culture of Villanova Law School. Much more, but since we're joking.
Yeah,
trial advocacy is definitely within the fabric of Temple in their law school.
Yes. So I feel super lucky that I get to start my career that way. How did it shape the work you do now, starting out as a defender?
Oh, my gosh. It's awesome because one of the things you learn really quickly as a defender is that you're perceived as the underdog in the court system, in the courtroom. And one thing I had to learn on my own is that the impacts that are going to happen directly on my client, right? Because I'm going to go back to work no matter what happens in court. You know, that's just how it works. But what happens to my client, a lot of that is based on the relationships that I build every day. I found out because I didn't have a car when I was a young PD. I would get rides sometimes from the DAs. And this is in a time when we did preliminary hearings only or exclusively, you know, in districts, which are in police stations all across the city. And if it was really far, you know, because I had done a summer internship the year before with DAs, like they were like cool with me. We weren't strangers. So I'm like texting them, and they were all from Temple. Yeah. Hey, so-and-so, we're both going to Academy and Red Lion. Can I meet you at the L at 5th and Market? Can you pick me up? That's close to your home where we used to hang out, you know. And I would hear the smack the DAs would talk. Oh. And now you remember, as a PD, the smack that we as PDs talk. Of course. So I recognize I got to have a good relationship beyond the folks who are like my actual friends in real life, work apart, you know, different sides of the courtroom apart. And as a state representative, similarly, you have to build coalitions. You have to work across the aisle. You have to be able to say like, hey, this isn't just popular in my district, but it should also be popular in yours. Why don't we build support and get coalitions? And the same way I had to build coalitions for clients who are fighting literally for their lives, I have to build coalitions every day. So I'm so grateful to have started my legal career there because it definitely always impacts all the work I do now.
Yeah, that's so interesting.
I can't imagine carpooling with the DAs. I personally...
Dirty little secret.
It is a dirty little secret.
Cleaning up dirty.
That's it. That's it.
I personally would, but I actually faced a little flack for how friendly I was with the DAs. But much as you described,
from who? It wasn't from your clients.
It was, well, that is actually a whole nother story because you couldn't do it in front of the clients.
I know.
Because they would get nervous. And you know, I would sometimes say to the clients, it's in your best interest for me to be really friendly and cordial with this person. I would even say that to my colleagues because some people
it gets
don't
so
get that.
Personal. I can remember being at 39th and Whitaker, and mind you, I lived in Southwest Philly, and then I moved a few blocks away in the West. 3901 Whitaker is just for Philly. Is a far drive.
Yeah.
And there's no easy SEPTA route to take it. Nope. And I remember my mom would drop me because it was so far. And then I would get a ride home with, whoever the list DA was. But my splitter, they would be like, oh, no, Joanna, you can have a ride. I'll wait for you to go talk to your clients. And I'm like, what am I going to tell my colleague? Tell your colleague to get a better attitude? I don't know. They say the thing that, of course, I'm not going to say. But I'm like, wow. So the way I carry around myself with the judge, with the court crier, all the staff, with the stenographer, the court reporter, the way I carry myself impacts the people sitting next to me. And when you recognize that's how the system works as a defender, not necessarily as a private lawyer. As a private lawyer, there's ritzy red carpet for them. Yeah. But as a defender, when you're about to do 10, 20, 30, 40, easily represent that many people in a day or a week, you'd recognize, I better start to play the game and not play the game being fake, but just being nice and respectful. Everyone's job is hard, not giving attitude, not being condescending, not being the law says, Now, of course, that's different from what you're doing in court when you have to give it a blow. But behind the scenes and as it, through the day, I'm not going to be the PD that these folks hate. Yeah. They already want to go home.
Yep.
Right. The juror, the judge, I won't say it too loud. Everybody's already starting the day with, when do we get out of here?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep. And so you felt on the days that you made other people's jobs harder. Oh, I'm not going to do that again because that did not work.
Correct.
And while you were talking, I was thinking about Harrisburg because there's certain reps and senators whose names are coming to mind. I will not name them on
no names
the podcast.
Here. We're cleaning up dirty, politically correct.
That's exactly right.
Well, and we don't want to get down into the trenches. We want to keep it. We want to keep it
above board
for sure. But I was thinking of certain folks while you're talking because you can see who didn't get the memo on this. Yeah.
Most didn't. And most interact with boxing gloves on. Most want to have contact and most want to, throw egg in the face. Even right now, like trying to let my colleagues know while the world seems to be on fire because of the actions of our president, we have to lead, govern, and function. We have to instill hope into people. But at the same time, just pointing the finger doesn't change anyone's reality. Sometimes people want to have a press conference where we just do a blame game. But we got to be here to solve problems. And that requires a level of maturity and focus that I certainly learned as an assistant defender.
Oh, yeah. I was thinking the same thing, Liz, as Madam Speaker, as you were describing that. Absolutely primed you for success in Harrisburg. Pennsylvania, you don't get more of a purple state. I mean, straight up, in the United States of America, there isn't a more split down the middle place to be. And if you want to get things done, especially when you started your career, when, in the minority, not the Democrats haven't had a lot.
82 Dems in 2015.
Yeah, there's
121 Republicans. I think we should try the Oreos.
I was going to say, did you see me reaching for them?
I'm a max out at 2. If you see me go for a third, end this immediately.
Something's happening.
But I was thinking while Sean was talking, isn't that a Sour Patch Oreo moment?
Boy, is it.
Two extremes.
Two extremes,
exactly.
Man.
The sweet and the sour.
You got to take them both sometimes.
And we got to take them both for the benefit of the Commonwealth. So
thank you. I'm trying this out.
I don't know, y'all.
This is different.
Boy, it is. I'm nervous.
This is different. And it's a lot of thick cream.
We are not sponsored by any of these lovely corporations. I just enjoy their food.
So you're trying the cookie first.
Wow.
That's a.
I had to try the cookie first to see if it deviated from a regular golden. And it is.
Boy, it is.
I actually really like that.
The cream is a lot thick.
It's a lot.
Well, it's not as nasty as I thought it was going to be.
It's not nasty.
I was afraid it was going to be like, spit this out. It's kind of.
It is different, though.
It's giving like a breakfast cereal, like a Fruity Pebbles kind of.
Yeah.
Fruity Pebbles. When I tasted that since the
I know. I was just going to say, I haven't tasted it in a long time myself. But this is okay. I don't hate it.
That's a tall compliment from Sean.
I mean, as far as weird snacks go, yeah. What are you thinking, Madam Speaker?
It's a little too much.
It's a little too much. Okay, we won't be seeing 3.
It's a little too much going in here. I thought I would have 2. I definitely can't do it.
I was thinking the same thing. I was like, maybe I can have 2 now.
I definitely can't have 2 of these.
See, this is
But it's always good to try something new.
It's my vibe. A little too much is just the right vibe.
Have you had these before?
I had not. This is the first time.
And you get a whole tray of them.
Yeah, I'm going to keep eating them after we wrap here. Yeah. So from lawyering, you went into politics, representing the people of the 191st District. For people who are not familiar with the 191st, can you tell us a bit about the district and the people who live there?
Yeah, so I live in West Philly. I serve my neighbors in Cobbs Creek. I also extend out into Southwest Philly, right where I grew up. It's like blocks apart. And I also am serving my neighbors in Delaware County past the invisible line.
Yeah.
So I serve neighbors in Yeadon and Darby boroughs, which are right outside of Philly. And then for those who are familiar with Philly, I'm on Market Street, starting at 63rd, go over to 59th, and then go south to Woodland Avenue. So I pass a lot of the streets with the trolleys, Baltimore Avenue, Woodland Avenue, and I also go all the way down Woodland Avenue until it turns into Main Street and becomes Darby Borough.
Gotcha. That's cool slice of town. And now, how long have you been representing that district?
So in August, it will be 10 years.
Wow.
Nice. And so what, I
haven't done anything in my career for 10 years.
Neither, and it's scary. Me neither, and it's scary. I'm like, gosh, I hope they renew my lease. We're not going to talk about politics, but I've not done anything that long either. I was at the Defender for 7. I was at my Senators for 1.5 years. I mean, I guess you could say I've been in different parts of school for 10 years, but I'm like, oh my gosh, what does this mean?
Well, you're kind of killing it, so I hope you get renewed too, because
it must mean, good things, and you must be liking it.
I do, and I enjoy my neighbors. And I'll tell you what really pushed me when I was, still like kind of newer to the senator job. My senator was like, "Oh, you should run for state rep." I'm like, I'm not interested in doing politics because people don't like politicians. That was like number 1 through 10. Like, people like me, bro.
Right? I got a lot of friends.
I'm not about to run for office and ruin it. That's never happening. But quite seriously, I thought about the joy that I had, kind of similar to this snack. Being a public defender. It was a lot of sour moments, but it was also a lot of sweet. And I thought, if I become a state rep, maybe it will be similar in that way, where I know it won't be an easy job, but there will also be so many highs that it makes the full fight worth it. And I can say, almost 10 years later, come August, it has been tremendous. I love spending time in the community, the seniors, the children, the families, hugs on the street, stopped in the supermarket. Like, it is awesome. I love serving my neighbors. And at the same time, in Harrisburg, where I've got to put the gloves on and, literally get into the ring to make sure that every budget remembers those same people. Because I only serve 60,000 of them. But when you help the people in my community that are working class, that are mostly black and brown, that are, fighting at jobs that pay too low, they get up and go to work every day, but yet we have a 40% poverty level. When we invest in communities like mine, it helps rural and suburban and mainline, Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. It helps everybody. So I'm pretty grateful.
All connected. And I was just thinking as you were saying that it takes a certain kind of person truly to be not only successful in politics, but to stick with it for long enough to end up where you are. And you even see examples sometimes of these hotshots who come in, they run for office and they get in and they're like, oh man, like I can't, this isn't fun for me at all. I'm going to go be a CEO of a company or something. And like the term that kept popping into my mind as you were speaking was happy warrior of like,
I need to get that tattoo.
Because like,
just kidding. I don't have one tattoo.
But if you did,
it will say happy warrior.
It would say happy warrior.
I love that.
Because it's like when you're doing all those things, and I'm fanboying a little bit here. I follow you on Twitter, and you just exactly how you described it. You are all over the place, all over the community, all over the state, and you're always smiling. And you've got...
I think I deserve a gummy.
Yeah,
you deserve a gummy for that.
You're in the gym. You're on MSNBC.
Oh my God. At 11 o'clock at night.
Ooh. Is that when that was? Is that when they recorded that?
Friends.
No pressure.
I have a bedtime.
Had to sit around all day thinking about that.
As a middle-aged lady, I've got to wrap my day up around 9:30 p.m., not sit down with makeup on at 10:45. But I was glad. Glad to be there.
It's so funny.
How do you tell them no? I'd rather be in the bed.
Exactly.
It's just not wise.
I was even thinking, I was like, she looks so engaged. She looks like she's like fired up. And that was
fabulous.
See,
happy warrior
you're feeling
going on the calf.
Feeling the unicorns.
This feels like hope.
Well, I'm
this is much better
glad
than Oreo.
that you're picking up on that because this is a hopeful podcast. We do try to highlight stories of hope on the podcast because I don't know if you've seen, there's like maybe a shortage of that nowadays.
What are you referencing?
Yeah, right.
Give me an example, counselor.
All of them, all of the examples.
Exhibit A through Z.
Right.
Yeah. And I picked this snack for this podcast episode because unicorns are our team mascot. So love the unicorn energy here. When you were talking about kind of your come up in the house, I was thinking about your event a few weeks ago, the Women's Her Story brunch, when you said you took over, I believe when you took over as Speaker of the House, there were 0 female committee chairs.
Correct.
And you said, and there are now 7, and I appointed them all. And that moment replays in my mind.
Brought the house down.
It brought the house down. It was the coolest moment. It is the most inspiring and a perfect example of when we get good people in positions of power, we can create change.
Correct. Because many people focus on, oh, you've made history. Oh, you've turned the pages. Oh, you broke the ceiling. And it's like, well, wait a minute. What am I able to do in this moment that's historical for other women? What am I able to do for our society, for the Commonwealth? How do I make sure this isn't a personal game, but this is a net game for all of us, all of us being able to say like, oh, and while you were there, these are the things that you did to reflect all of our values and to push us farther. What does it mean for those members who are just starting this January to have 7 women lead committees when I was a freshman, there were 0? That's wild. It is a pretty totally change. And I hope and look forward to the opportunity for it to continue to expand and grow.
It is really wild, and it is incredibly inspiring. I'm the one who asked the question at the brunch about making politics a safe place for women.
Very good question.
Spoiler alert, part of the inspiration for the podcast is my travels in politics and not feeling safe as a woman.
And it's dirty.
Yeah. So it's really incredible to have this footprint in Harrisburg now that makes other people feel like we could one day follow in those footsteps.
And, Madam Speaker, I was thinking as you were saying, you could have easily fallen back on all of the historic firsts you've had, but that's so not your style. I mean, anybody who's followed you knows that. When I was working down in D.C. on this kind of stuff, I heard this term of in politics, there's workhorses and there's show horses. And, when you're doing the work, you can figure out pretty quick which one's which. And you're someone you could easily be.
I'm a unicorn.
You're a unicorn.
Yes, that's got to be your first tattoo.
Like it's kind of like,
oh my gosh.
Actually, we have a tattoo artist here. Please come in. We're going to do
We're
live.
changing things right now. Please remove your blazer.
It's going to be quick, though.
Which shoulder? Right. Left shoulder. I'm right-handed.
Yes.
Involuntary tattooing.
See, you thought about it a little bit.
Well, the 2024 election didn't go super well for Democrats across the country, and it was expected to be close, and we were hopeful that things would turn out differently, and that did not happen. However, the Pennsylvania House, major footnote here, not a footnote, a whole...
That's a headline.
A whole headline that you really blew the national trend, and in a state where Trump carried and Senator Casey lost his seat, House Dems managed to not lose a single incumbent who ran for re-election and held on to the majority. That is extraordinary. I don't think people really understand how deep that is. So,
and even in a completely unpartisan, nonpartisan sense, like just from the numbers, that's like
it's
wild.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
It is.
So how'd you do it? What are your secrets?
Well, listen, all I can tell you is that it is the epitome of all politics is local. Because with the exception of one person who was running brand new, everyone else was an incumbent, whether it was first term or whether it was, 6th or 7th term who had contested races. We had about 5 that were complete toss-ups. They were 5 areas that our president was victorious in both 2016 and 2020. And of course, we anticipated him to win in those communities in 2024, and he did. Yet, because of the work that those members have done locally, it wasn't that their opponents got 0 votes. It's that they were able to get the majority of votes because of their reputation, because of their brand, because of people knowing who they are, that they're tangible, that they're accessible, and that they're willing to put the work in Harrisburg, notwithstanding them being Democrats, even though their areas have changed and trended the red way and have completely, the registrations dropped and fallen through the bottom. Places where it was all blue in Western PA. When I came in 2015 and we only had 82 Democrats, we had a solid 10 that were called blue dogs. They were from areas outside of Pittsburgh, all around, and they were areas that were previously Union strongholds, areas where folks' parents and grandparents worked in the steel mills. And suddenly, with the rise of the president in 2016, it's just like the red took over those communities, and we not only did we lose members through the years, we are so proud that we did not lose one member in the 2024 election, and look forward to delivering again in this budget and on policy, investing in public schools, cutting taxes for seniors, the more, continue to deliver so that in 2026, it's not an anomaly when we hold on to the gavel, even if it remains a 1-seat majority. It is truly important to note in this time that we would have the same chaos in Washington, in Harrisburg, if it wasn't for that 1-seat majority in our state house.
It's extraordinary. I mean, it is literally a 1-seat majority, and boy, what a difference that makes. And I think in practice now, because in order for Senate to get something done, the governor to get something done, the House to get something done, it compromise is required.
Oh yeah, we work together.
You have to, and so it's the contrast with DC is it could not be more stark right now. I mean, it's just there ain't a whole lot of compromising happening down there.
None. They're not even pushing back on the president.
They're not even trying.
And these Congress members are getting cursed out by their constituents, and they are just sitting on their hands. I am so appalled by the silence, by the, okay, let him do whatever he wants. What?
You think we should be pushing back a little more, huh?
I think if I was in Washington, D.C., they'd be tired of my town halls.
Listen,
oh, my gosh.
Defense never rests.
Oh, my gosh.
I
It
wore
could
my
be something I
Defender shirt.
learned in, from 06 to 13. But
That's
it's
right.
like, no, we're not done.
Yeah.
We're not done fighting.
Yes.
And again, it's so inspiring to me. It's actually Sean who pointed this out to me, how exceptional it is that the House Dems maintained their majority. And it's so cool to me that we do this work in a purple state because, boy, it would be easier in a blue state.
But that's not where we are.
That's not where we are. It's not where the country is. There is not a clear side. It's people, we go back and forth each election, and that's the nature of the biz here in America,
And
right?
that's how it is.
So it forces collaboration, it forces reaching across the aisle and forging relationships so we can actually do something positive together rather than wasting the taxpayers' money.
Yeah.
Yeah. And people in D.C. could stand to learn a thing or two from Pennsylvania in that, again, talk about a microcosm of the country. The way the districts are, both House and Senate, nobody's, no matter what, you get the best couple of years you could get, and nobody's getting a blowout majority. No matter what. It's just the way the districts are
we finally
lined.
have fair maps.
Because they're fair.
We finally do. In the State House.
Yes.
I mean, the way that the mud was slung on the chair of our redistricting commission in 2022, oh, this is a gerrymander, oh, the Democrats got a leg up. Where is the leg up? Okay, there have been 2 elections. Where is my 12-seat majority? Where is it? No, it's a fair map. It's
so
just
fair.
not drawn in a way for one party to remain in control. It is drawn in a way for there to be competitive races, which is what a democracy should want.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
How it's supposed to be.
That's exactly, we should all want that. I mean, it's well established on this show that I'm a politics nerd, and I was drilling down, leading up to the 2024 election, I was drilling down in these districts, like looking district.
What's going to happen?
What's going to happen? And I was counting up the swings, and as you said, man of speak, there was like one hand. You got, I mean, like, not only holding it is going to be hard, but picking up any
Growing
more,
anywhere is
it's
going to be
so
very
difficult.
hard.
So,
It will never be the 12-seat, the 21-seat that I came in with in August of 2015. Are you kidding me? It will never be anything like that. And that's a good thing.
It is.
Because as you two are noting, it makes us all work together. As a result, last session, 90% of our bills were bipartisan. Very few bills that we put up on the board where you just saw one column green.
Yep.
I mean, most of them we picked up because these are modern ideas to move us all forward.
Absolutely. And the way the U.S. Senate is, the geography of our nation.
Yeah, it's a challenge.
2
It's a big
senators
challenge.
per state, no matter where
you might
you're
have to
at.
start doing population.
Well, and
I'm in Harrisburg. I'm not
Yes.
trying to run it all, but we may have to start looking at where people live. Like California might need 3 senators. I mean, we're going to have to figure this out because we cannot live in a reality where, we had one thing going on 250 years ago. That was 250 years ago.
Yes.
Hello, what is going on now is not what was going on there.
Yeah.
To put it mildly.
It's a little
13 colonies to 50 states where we've got dozens because of population not being there. It's likely to lean one way. That's not fair, and that's not competitive.
absolutely. And
Now, that said, Sean's going to flip the Senate in Pennsylvania, so it's going to become a blue state.
you heard it here first, folks. It's coming.
We're ready.
Hot off
plans.
the heels of that upset in Lancaster. Man.
Yeah,
Let's do
Malone.
it.
Let's
Wow.
do it. Now,
Flip it.
I have to ask because, again, as a
That's a unicorn
politics
moment for me.
nerd, you hear about folks in Congress
No mas.
who are like, uno mas for me, por favor.
Interrupting your question. Please continue.
Being in a minority in office, in a legislative body is generally not for the faint of heart. Frankly, you hear it stinks. You hear it's no fun because, especially if they had gone from majority to minority, then they're like, no, I can't do anything. Somehow I feel like you wouldn't agree with that sentiment because, it sounds like you found a way to get things done even in the minority. So I'm just curious. And it sounds like you have maybe some more advice for folks in D.C. who are in the minority. Like, what was your approach?
So, I can't tell, Leader Jeffries what to do.
Of course.
I'm not there. We're in a very horrific moment in the way that our government is functioning. But I will say that when I was in the minority from, 2015 to 2022, in order for a bill to pass, it can never be in your name. You had to give it to a Republican. You can be a prime sponsor, but it was never going to be McClinton on the board while we were in the minority. It was never working. However, last session, I was proud to pass twice the number of bills that the Republican speaker the session before passed. In their name. They didn't have to take their name off and give it to a Democrat.
What do you know?
Because we, unlike them, don't care so much about power. We care about progress. So if a good idea comes from the minority caucus, particularly with a one-seat majority, we want to work together on solving these problems. We want to send them over to the Senate so that they can get them to the governor's desk. We have a different approach with leadership. Democrats do generally. It's not a new thing. We're always called the nice guy. But beyond being the nice guy, in this age where people want to be polarized, we also want to demonstrate that we can function, that we can govern, and that we can work together. Every bill won't be bipartisan, but for 90% of them last session to be, it's tremendous. It shows you what our agenda was about. And they might have a hard time being in the minority, particularly the members who were always in charge for years and years and years and years, but they can't say, oh, we can't work with them. That is not what they can say, because I know when I came, I'm like, how do I get a bill? Well, you got to find a Republican best friend who cares about the issue.
Yep.
Once that person cares about the issue, you got to lay low and fall to the back. And then you can come to the press conference and shine later. And maybe you can go to the bill signing. But you
stand behind the cameras.
Right.
You had to pass the ball and give it to this one. Give it to that one. Until you give that ball to this one, nothing will happen. You will never score a touchdown.
Wow.
And I'm so grateful that our approach is different. It's about progress. It's not about retaining power where, it's me, it's my party. No, we're working across the aisle. The first bill last session that I ran as speaker was the Senate President's bill. Senator Kim Ward from Westmoreland County. She's been working for multiple sessions on a bill for Pennsylvania to become the first state where women who need genetic testing after something has come up on their mammogram to not have to pay out of pocket for it. But guess what? I was proud to call her bill up. Not some great Democrat in my caucus, but no, to show this is what our reality is now. We have a one-seat majority, and we want to do it in a way that not just extends grace, but says, how can we make progress? Mm-hmm.
If it's good legislation, it's good legislation. We in our line of work have it's not uncommon where you see something come out with a certain senator or representative's name on it, and you all reflexively, this has got to be bad. It's Senator so and so. Like, this has got to be
no
bad.
way this could be good.
But you have to give it a chance.
It's funny. I was just hearing something in my mind, and I was like, who did I hear? Somebody once said to me, I know a lot of adults. I don't know a lot of grown-ups. And I think it might have been you who said that in the Women's Her Story brunch last year. I could be misquoting here, but I was hearing it while you were talking because
we have to get the fact checker. The unicorn will have to tell us.
That's right.
Madam Stenographer, would you please read the record back? Sometimes I say that to Sean when we're arguing about something.
It's always funny.
PD jokes.
That's cool. I'm going to have to implement that.
Yes. But as you were talking, I was thinking this is grown-ups in government.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, environmental and public health issues are, of course, our bread and butter on this podcast and in this organization, this work that Sean and I do. Governor Shapiro recently introduced his lightning plan that, among other things, will increase the amount of clean energy generated within Pennsylvania. Do you think a purple state can get that done in 2025?
Absolutely. And it's got to be a priority. When we think about how volatile our systems are, like this past winter, coldest winter for 10 years because because, unfortunately, climate change, right? Unfortunately. I mean, and it wasn't just Pennsylvania having the coldest winter. Our nation experienced the coldest winter. Parts of our country that don't even have heat or heaters. I mean, places in the deep South, in Louisiana, and parts of Florida, not the northern part of the peninsula, but, central. They had tough times. So it is incumbent upon us that we absolutely make clean energy a priority. I always like to tell people, I am that one that turns the heat on in October. Because guess what? I'm not going to sit in the house and catch a cold.
Yeah.
Okay? So we need to make sure that there's supply, not just for my lovely home, but for all the people around us, so that we don't find ourselves to a point where we don't have the energy that's necessary and where we're not doing it in a modern process that preserves the planet.
Absolutely. And that's something we certainly harp on plenty ourselves. Pennsylvania, you talked about it a little bit earlier, Madam Speaker, about Pennsylvania's industrial history. We've got such a great base and a tradition of doing that kind of work here. We've got tremendous labor force. And our thing is, like, what if we had some industry that wasn't filthy dirty for a change? What if we brought some stuff in that wasn't, polluting the air, polluting the land, polluting the water, and could, give the jobs and generate some clean energy.
Yes.
And there's been so much resistance to that, and I think a lot of it is just purely political. But we're excited the governor's putting his support behind this, and hopefully, I know we'll certainly be working on it. It's going to take a lot of political gymnastics, perhaps.
That's okay though. Let's get in the gym.
Let's get in the gym. Yes, I know you're ready for it. You're primed. Let's do it.
Can we talk about God a little?
Of course. Who's he? Who's she?
I was going to say,
Yes.
you're an ordained minister, so I was guessing this would not scare you. When I was a Philly Defender, I was a nihilist, basically didn't believe in anything, and faith is now an essential part of my career. It's what keeps me going in this work. If I had a wild guess, this might be something that you know a thing or two about.
Sure. So when I was in the second grade, my brother was in the Army. He had his first deployment to Germany, and when he came home, he told my mother and I he was saved. Now, at 7 years old, of course, conceptually, I understood the words he was saying, but I didn't understand what he was saying until a few years later. But essentially, he prayed with us and told us, if we prayed this prayer, we'd be saved too, and that we needed to start going to church. So we visited a church around the corner from our house, and at the end of service, they're like, does anyone want to join? And I'm pretty sure it was a push of my mom off the row, and she was looking at him like, what are you doing? But he kind of made us join a church, and when we joined the church, there were so many changes in our lives, particularly around where our time was spent and how we would use our Sundays. We literally started going all the time. When my mother wasn't working, we'd go on Friday night or Tuesday night, and by the time I was in fourth grade, it became important for her to have me in a school that taught me faith as well. And so faith is a huge part of me. It's very difficult to dissect them or separate the two, but it definitely it completely fuels me. And I'm so grateful, particularly in the times we're dealing with today, to know that all is not lost. I was in Pittsburgh a couple of weeks ago, and a guy was really pushing me like, why do you have hope? Why do you have hope? I'm like, because I'm alive. The fact that I'm alive and I don't have to be here, and what great blessing that is, tells me that while I'm breathing and living, and there's so many people like-minded with and without faith, that we're going to fight for better days and for change to come.
Yeah. And for me, it's partly about it's not all on me. Mm-hmm. Because when I was a nihilist and thought there's nothing other than the work I do while I'm here, I felt this constant pressure that I just have to do everything all the time. I have to work. And then once I started to realize, no matter what you believe, even just that there's so many other people in the world that I don't control. Yes. So most of this is not up to me, and things just have a certain way of taking shape. Now, we had a former podcast episode where our guest was Heather McTeer-Toney, who was in the Obama administration. You might have heard of her. And she said one party does not own God.
That's awesome.
Is that something?
Amen, Heather.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, right.
Preach.
Yeah, and she's from Mississippi, so she knows what's up.
Yeah. So is that something that informs your work directly, or just kind of hovers for you in the background?
Well, that is something I've not heard before now. I'm glad to hear it, and I definitely agree with it. Like, there's no monopoly on faith, on principles from the Bible, and certainly not on what is perceived as righteousness. And that is a challenge that I've just had to contend with since the rise of our president for, 12 years now, of how have so many people who propel and say that they're parts of the Christian faith specifically and want to be a part of what he's doing. It's perplexing, it's overwhelming, and it's just something that I can't, agree with personally. Not sending anybody to hell, but I am saying that it's a conflict that I've not been able to, reconcile. And I don't believe that my faith dictates, every bit of my work or every bit of politics or every bit of political parties. But I definitely believe, understanding what I've learned from a child, that for you to see the attitude and the actions consistently of this president, it's very difficult to stand there and say, God bless him and his work. And it's like, what? I don't think God's involved at all for him. I don't think God's actually a factor. He's kind of responding like I did 5 minutes ago, Steno. Who's God? Who's he? Who's she? Somehow I just find that troubling, but I do appreciate what Heather shared.
Yeah. And, you reference family, and when we saw you at the brunch, you spoke a bit about your mother, and clearly family is a really big important part of your life. And it really resonated with me. I grew up, my parents got divorced, and my dad was around, but I was mostly raised by my mom. And, when you were talking about your mother at the herstory brunch, and just how close you two were. My mom and I are very close to this day. Very
awesome.
Close.
Yay to moms.
Yay to moms.
I'll have a unicorn.
Yeah, she will. And so, it's just interesting to me. Like when I was a kid, we went everywhere together. She got her college degree and master's degree, like middle of her life when she was middle-aged. She took me to the classes at night and all that. And just had a really, really big impact on my life. And so I just wanted to ask you, about to speak a bit about your mom and family and how that shaped you and where you are now.
Oh, no, she's tremendous. She's without a doubt my best friend and has been my whole life. And it's so awesome. My mother did not have a sister growing up just like I don't. She had 2 younger brothers. I have 1 older brother. And inevitably, from my youngest years, we were very, very tight. She often said it was because, my brother was out of the house for most of my life. So it was just the 2 of us, because she and my dad split when I was about to turn 3.
Okay.
So she's like, it was just us. It was just us together.
I know what that's like. It's just the 2 of you.
And we done everything together. And she has been, as I, in professional world, in professional terms, you'd say a mentor. I never thought about that when I was growing up. It just felt a little bit like control. But the truth of the matter is, by the time I was 25, I recognized my mother has never steered me wrong. She was in charge of me before I could do anything. She's always protected me, nurtured me, loved me, and literally has always given me the best advice. And I've always wondered, how do you know everything? When will I get to the age when I know everything? Mom, how did you just know it all? But she's just awesome. She's fabulous. She and I have lived together my whole life, literally my whole life. And she is still in charge of my life. I might have a chief of staff in Harrisburg, but I do think she's in charge.
The mom,
Because she asks me, well, what are you doing today? Do you have someone on your team driving you to Malvern? Are you going to do that alone at night, Joanna? It's an hour plus from here. And she poses the questions that I don't have answers for all the time. But I'm grateful for her, because she's not just been a leader to me in my profession and encouraged me, but also in faith, and most importantly, in love and empathy, showing me how to treat other people.
That's the X factor, Mom. She's done a fantastic job.
Oh, sounds like you said so.
Sounds like good people. Hope she listens. We'd love to have her listen.
Sean's mom is a president of our fan club, longtime listener.
yay.
Hey, Mom.
Shout out to my
She's
mom.
listening.
Shout out to all
Hi,
the
Sean's mom.
Another
I was his mom.
Liz. Yes.
Oh, my middle name is Elizabeth.
Really?
I don't think you knew that.
No,
Definitely
I did
did
not.
Wow. Triple Liz.
Wow.
Triple Liz.
What's up?
That's why.
This is a Cheetos Flamin' Hot Dill
Ooh,
Pickle
you're on your
moment.
own with that.
Yeah, honestly, I hope you enjoy those.
Can't do
'cause,
it.
Mm-mm, no.
I can't do a flaming hot just without pickles.
You know, even
It's too spicy for me.
and this is like the Cheeto.
Love, honestly.
Really? It's not
Yeah.
too hot for you?
This is
They're like
designed for me. It's a pretty
radioactive.
specific audience.
Not for me.
They're
Yeah.
actually
You wanna give 'em a
they're
try?
glowing out of the bag. It's just they're pulsing light. It's not. Nah, I'm good. I'm all right.
Skipping?
I'm skipping.
Not
All right,
for me.
well,
Thank you, though.
More for me. Well, given your success, your faith background, your life experience, I think you're uniquely qualified to give the people some hope during this bumpy identity journey that America is undergoing right now. So where do we go from here? What can people do to keep the fire alive?
So everybody wants action items. So the first thing is making sure that we normalize discussing how what is happening is not normal, how it is totally dysfunctional, and how for those of us who are in the legal field, many of it seems to be illegal.
Oh, yeah. Sure does.
We have to talk about it. I know we don't want to get overwhelmed, but we have to engage.
Yes.
We have to talk to the youngest voters we know and see how they are doing and making sure that they're not checking out. When I was in high schools in the fall and students had never heard of January the 6th, I got very concerned. So this is also a moment in which we can engage, which we can talk to younger voters in our family. I'm not suggesting you do a canvas, but the ones we know, the ones who were saying a few months ago, it doesn't matter who's president. It's all a game. It's all determined by someone else. It doesn't matter. It's all fate. Who's in charge doesn't affect me. Now is the time for us to have the soft conversations with, have you seen what's happening? How do you feel about that? What are you going to do about it this year? This year, we get to vote again. No, we don't get to vote for president, but just like those good folks in Lancaster, we do get to send some messages. There
Yep.
will be special elections for very big seats in Congress and legislatures all around. As a Pennsylvania, one big thing we get to do by November is determine to keep 3 justices on the Supreme Court
That's
who've
right.
done a great job, who all won their seats fair and square 10 years ago as Democrats. Up until this point, it's never been a contested election. But because so much money, interestingly enough, is coming from the main line, is coming against, having a fair map and other things,
Wow.
they're really trying to boot these justices, all 3. And it would be the first time that something like this would be occurring, where they're running a race. Usually it's just like, oh, people are going to hit yes. But they're trying to get more people to hit the no button. So we have work to do this year. We have primary elections for those of us who are affiliated with political parties this May. We get to choose who's going to go on to the races in November for judge, for DA. These are important roles.
Oh, yeah.
Don't feel hopeless. Recognize we have power. And all of the organizations who are letting people know we have a rally, we have this. When you can, go, because it
Yes.
will also inspire and encourage you on this journey. This feels like forever because of the time frame, but the truth of the matter is we are resilient people, and if we keep checking in on each other, we will make it through this time. And most importantly, having a plan of how to never get back here again has to be at the forefront of our minds.
Yeah.
Wow. I'm fired up. I want to do a canvas. I want to go out.
It sounds like you want a Cheeto.
I want I'll take a unicorn. But I do not want a Cheeto for. But no, that was so. I mean, I agree with everything, Madam Speaker. That's exactly what we should be doing, and I think that message is one of the reasons why you and your caucus are seeing success. I think American people are hungry for that sort of approach.
Yeah. And all of those races you were naming all intersect together. They all operate together in this system, in this government, right? That is uniquely designed in this way. So each of them really does matter.
And because I'm fired up,
Starting to wrap up here.
All
And
right.
Sean has a favorite song.
All right, Sean.
Excuse me.
Are you
Sean
singing?
don't put me on the
Sean,
spot.
Cue the music.
Oh, he would.
Bring
Go
the
for
beat
it.
in.
Oh, no.
Drop the beat.
do not, Madam Speaker, do not encourage her. She will do it. It will be up.
We were literally at a political event. I will not name any names. but there was a pole on stage, and the official whose event it was then realized, oh, they're standing next to a pole, and made a comment about it. And it definitely wasn't me, but somebody in the back of the room was like, drop a beat.
And I was not at this event.
Wow.
But it was
don't even know what to say.
It was that's probably wise. But yeah, so Sean's gonna sing for you.
No.
I meant to say he has a
question is-
favorite question. I misspoke.
Oh, not a song.
Because I'm pumped up, because you got me all fired up here. Do you have a walk-up song? If you were like bottom of the ninth, bases loaded, you're walking up to the plate to bring the Phillies home, what's the song that's playing?
Anything off of Beyonce's Homecoming album.
Ooh, nice.
I have to admit, I don't know if it's on the Homecoming album, but my walk-up song is Freedom by
It's on there.
Brass Against.
One of the versions is on there.
Yeah, so I was guessing.
It's the live drum and percussion for me that's on that album that make every song that's a normal, Love on Top. That's just so much percussion. It's like, oh, wait, this is exciting.
Yes. And what more could you want for a walk-up song? But
I love
the
a
heavy
brass
percussion.
band in a song, generally.
It's pretty awesome. Most people don't have that happening, as artists, because of why we're going to have a whole marching band, unless it's a theme that
Why
it goes
not?
along with. But I enjoy it personally.
Yeah, I get it. I live on South Street in Philadelphia, and it gets wild down there sometimes.
Council.
What can I say? Somebody's got to keep the peace,
You're where the party's at.
That's it. You got it. Down on South Street, y'all. But but there was a drum line. A little like Philly Elmo was out doing his thing.
Elmo.
And I was like, man, I hope they come back up my street, because every time they walk past, I was like, yeah, man,
They were killing it.
Infectious. You can't not dance to it.
So we could see you walking up. We got Beyonce playing. We got a brass band going, and we got Philly Elmo.
All together. And I'm going to high five Philly Elmo.
Love
Yes,
it. I love that.
Of course.
Well, any closing thoughts here? Any work you want to make sure the listeners know about?
I just want to thank you all for your work. I've talked and talked and talked. Thank you all for your work, what you're doing, not only with this podcast, but certainly with the council. It is needed. It's awesome. And I'm just inspired. So thank you.
Well, thank you. We're flattered by that. And we hope, hope we can keep rock and roll together, because we got a lot more.
Oh, yeah.
Pennsylvania's.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
I'll bring snacks now that I know.
Yes.
Please. Yes.
Sounds great. Well, thank you for saying that. That is incredibly kind of you. And when I'm up in the middle of the night, agonizing over what to do about this world, I'll just hear that and feel comforted by it.
Lay it.
That's it.
Well,
I think that.
thank you for coming.
Thank you.
And to our listeners, thank you for listening to Cleaning Up Dirty. To help us clean up dirty, follow us at Clean Air Action everywhere on socials, and subscribe everywhere you stream pods. And a big thank you to our team, the best podcast producer in the biz, Bobby Zafransky.
Bobby.
What's up?
This guy.
And the best admin specialist and legislative advocate, Corinne Bishop and Emily Wildman.
Best team ever. You guys rock and roll.
And that's
For
a
us,
wrap.
folks.